Hey everyone, and welcome to the Feeding Hour. Tonight we have Rachel Heiss. We're so happy to have her. Rachel is a good friend of a previous guest we have, Netta, and a mutual best friend, therefore, with Abby, who can't be here tonight. So thank you so much for being here, Rachel. Rachel has one
Course.
child expecting her second.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. So
Um,
yeah, just at mine, we can just hop on into your feeding story with your first child, and then I'll pepper you with questions as we go along.
that sounds great. Um, so yeah, I have one daughter named Ruby. She is 2 and a month, turned 2 in March, and it's June now. And I am pregnant with our second, and I'm due in July. So I was gonna talk a bit about some things about pregnancy and birth that I think affected our breastfeeding journey, relationship, um, the early times. And then we ended up breastfeeding for just shy of her second birthday when she decided she was done. Um, yeah. And I was like pregnant at the time. So, okay. Should I start with pregnancy?
I love it. It's pregnancy,
Okay,
birth, and I feel like they're all interconnected. So,
for sure. So I got pregnant. I was taking prenatals, was taking an over the counter gummy prenatal. And I think that's worth mentioning because I take full well breast, which is so much more nutrient dense or packed with so many helpful minerals, vitamins, all
what's
things.
it called? Full well?
Full well,
Okay.
yes. Um, I read the book Real Food for Pregnancy by Lily Nichols. I'm not like completely following the type of that she meant, but I have certainly changed like lots of protein, uh, like way less sugar. Still, I will like totally run out after bedtime and like get ice cream when I need to. But yeah, like I'm just focused more on my nutrition this time. Last time, my prenatal was like basically folic acid, and that's it. So as I was getting closer to Ruby born in March, I tested positive for Group B strep. So I just went into it knowing like, okay, that means I need antibiotics. I didn't really like read too much about it. And I know it's like some people are hardcore like, yes, you must get them. Other people are like, no, the evidence shows this, and other countries do it like this. And I'm like somewhere in between. So last time I considered the antibiotics, ended up on them for a very long time. So also right before, like a month before my birth, um, her birth, I guess, I got COVID. And a couple things about that is that I had less time. Like once you get COVID, the recommendation is to take a baby aspirin every day. And so I had less time on that baby aspirin between then getting COVID and having Ruby. And then anecdotally, I delivered in a hospital with midwives. Um, and anecdotally, the midwife said, like, we have no evidence for this, but we've been noticing that uh, and who get COVID before giving birth will like are more likely to have preeclampsia in some capacity before birth. I ended up with postpartum preeclampsia 2 days after having Ruby. So it's a little
So
bit
it's,
about the pregnancy.
yeah, that's an
Yeah.
interesting correlation between COVID and the preeclampsia, and they kind of predicted it.
It's not that they said that before. They said it
Um,
after I got it. They were like, there are many like birthing people on this floor who are on these and they also had COVID while pregnant. So it was 2023. Yeah. So when I was 41 weeks pregnant, I um, broke prematurely. So I, I mean, I guess like you would think labor would probably start. So whatever, it just didn't break. It was not contracting. Um, I waited for my doula's recommendation. She's like, if you go straight to the hospital now, they're just going to start you on antibiotics and nothing's happening in your body yet. It is safe to wait for a number of hours. So if you're comfortable with that, and she like gave me the more information about it. Like if you're comfortable with that, you can wait. Um, so I waited about 8 hours and I did let midwife know because I was GBS positive. If I was negative, I would have probably waited like 24 hours to see what my body would do. But because I was GBS positive, I called a little bit later, like a couple hours later, like, you need to come in. And I was like, I don't, I don't think it's like that urgent. They were like, just come in soon. And I was like, okay, I'm going to like see what happens for another hour or so. And then like, stretch to 2 hours, 3 hours. And then anyway, when we went to
More of yes, positive. Sorry to interrupt.
yeah. Group B strep is a bacteria that is like naturally existing, and they test you for that at 37 weeks with a swab in the vagina and around the rectum. And it is a transient bacteria. So if you test negative for it, it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have it at the time of birth, but they don't retest, and vice versa. So if I tested positive, if they had tested closer to birth, it could have gone away, but they just don't test. Um, Something that helped me learn more about it in this pregnancy, especially, is evidence-based birth. If you've heard of that, there's a website, team of researchers, a podcast, even articles. So they give more information on that and how other countries respond with antibiotics, or like do kind of like we a lot of times like talking about wait and see is like not the way to go, but like with this, it's possible to wait and see if an infection occurs. Said consequences, very, very, very chances of a GBS positive infection in a newborn is like very detrimental. So
Got
you
you.
just have to research and decide.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
So then
Yeah.
you go to the hospital a little bit earlier than perhaps you would have because you're GBS positive, and then you get to the
With
hospital.
GBS positive with waters broken.
Okay,
So you're more likely for infection like go into the uterus, go into the amniotic fluid and whatnot. So I go to the hospital. This is a Sunday. Ruby is born on a Tuesday. So from the time my waters broke to the time she was born was about 52 hours. I was not in active labor the whole time, but there no progress with my cervix overnight. At the hospital, I started with Cytotec and then Pitocin. So the cascade of interventions that we before recording, like, kind of happened. Ruby wouldn't tolerate the Pitocin contractions in certain positions. And I was personally managing the contractions. Okay. It wasn't the Pitocin level that worked for my body was like, I couldn't go to, and I think it was like 22 or 24. So they would like turn it off, let her settle, turn it on. Like they settled on like a literal, like a 1. They don't typically give you that. Well, or that's fun. With her heart rate decelerating, they ended up putting a couple things. They changed the monitor to be the like little wire in her scalp, number one, which made me very sad. Number two, they like floated the uterus or baby, so put a tube in. I maybe that called an IUPC. Can't remember, intrauterine something catheter. That could be the name for the heart rate thing. I don't know.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, so they put a tube in to like put fluid in because my waters had been broken for so long. They didn't place that correctly and essentially like stabbed me from the inside. It was so painful. I was being held down while they were doing this. Then ended up saying like we couldn't place it correctly and we're gonna have to do it again. Um, this is gonna fall out. The like thing stays in there. So I was like, okay, in that case, I think I need to get an epidural because this is like the sensation that I ever thought that I would feel. Um, if you're gonna have to do it again, it's not birth, that's not contractions. So ended up getting an epidural when that was not the plan. Um, it that said, it helped me relax. I was just reading through. I have my like baby book here with some of the birth story, and I wrote down how like annoyed and defensive I felt at the hospital from the moment I went in. They were like, "Why do you think your water broke?" And I was like,
What?
"You hate that question to not make me think that you think that I'm an idiot."
Right. So
Yeah,
accusatory of something that's
right.
happening with my body.
Well,
Oh my gosh.
yes. So, needless to say, like I was on antibiotics for 40 something hours before she was born. I had Cytotec, Pitocin, an epidural, um, an IV with antibiotics. When they would flush the IV, there were a couple times when I got really lightheaded. I don't, it didn't, it didn't help me feel calm. We were dealing with like heart rate decels after like, you know, labor augmentation medications. I pushed for, so like we finally, like cervix opened, we were ready. I pushed for 2.5 hours. Was like, my husband jokes that they threatened me with an episiotomy. It was like a gentle, like, we need to, like, it's something we could consider. And I was like, oh, hell no. Like, we're pushing, got her out. Also, at one point, a cesarean was brought up. And I do believe that because we had a doula who helped us basically know to say, um, like, can we see what happens with the next few contractions? Can we wait 20 to 30 minutes to decide? And then everything was fine. And we decided to like turn the Pitocin lower or off at that point. And I believe if I was with an OB team, I would have had a cesarean. Instead, ended up with a vaginal birth. That was the absolute best part. It was great. Um, and then, so she was born on a Tuesday. We were not discharged until Saturday. So I don't remember the first latch very well. I remember I was FaceTiming Netta, who was like our like IBCLC. I don't even remember if she was an IBCLC at the time. I feel like she was, or she was like almost there. So we FaceTimed her in the hospital and she like noticed a few things. So like Ruby had a really recessed chin. She couldn't stick her tongue out. The latch was like, she helped us like try to find a latch, but it was like not great. Um, Ruby got like, I think I should have put her to the breast more frequently than I did in the hospital. So I will be doing that with this next baby, just like constantly to the boob.
Yeah.
This time I was like, well, I just fed her. Like, what is like, I don't know what to do. Just like put her to the boob again. But
Mm.
like couldn't latch that well. She ended up having like jaundice on Thursday, the day we were supposed to get discharged. And I ended up having postpartum preeclampsia. So we were both admitted back to another room. I get the 24-hour magnesium drip and she needs supplementation and our hospital offered donor milk. So we went with that. With the magnesium drip, I think like I just like couldn't get up to get her. I was tied to the bed. And of course
Mm.
he was there and just like handed her to me and all the things. But that was tough.
Is the donor milk, like, did they suggest the donor milk because they could add supplement to it, or was it because of poor latch? Or
It it's not that they added anything to it. It was just that like she couldn't even get enough colostrum. I don't believe like out of me. Um, or like nothing was helping her go to the bathroom,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah, she just like needed more intake to be able to have more output. So I started pumping on while I was like tied to the bed on the magnesium drip with like I didn't even bring pumps that like the hospital had them. That said, like I mean, the flanges were way too big and my nipples came out looking like hot dogs. I was like, this adds another layer of grief to
Yeah. Ah,
the experience.
gosh.
That's a terrible shape to see. Um,
And you're postpartum, you're still in the hospital when you don't wanna be.
yeah.
Birth you did get to have a vaginal birth, but it didn't go, to plan. Like, there's so many components to this that are would make it challenging, would make feeding challenging, just in general,
Yes.
and if her latch was perfect.
Yeah. And I that postpartum hormone crash hit
Mm,
while I was on the magnesium drip. And I just yelled at a couple of people. Was like, you know, I I counted how many times I had been poked and prodded with a needle or like a tube or whatever. And it was like 25 times. And I was like, there's that. I was supposed to go home yesterday. I was put in a room with no windows at first. You guys would be like, I haven't been outside since Sunday. It's Thursday. And then like I remember saying like, and my lips are so chapped. Like
to
that's what happens when you're in there. I don't know if you
wow. Oh, well, I was gonna say I work like, my internship is in acute care now, and so I'll see people, like, sometimes new moms, but mostly older people,
Mhm.
and we always have to check them for hospital, like, psychosis, and
Mhm.
I'm like, "No, what are you kidding me? Of
Yes.
course they're gonna have, like, some
Right.
dysphoria. They're in a hospital with no windows,
Right.
like, dark, and they're just, like, staring off into space, and then here I come, ask them what day of the week it is, they're like, "I don't even know what month it is," you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
so
so that's interesting you say that because we actually had to have a conversation with a social worker before we could get discharged. We got
mm,
on Saturday. The Ruby was born Tuesday. The jaundice, the postpartum preeclampsia hits Thursday. We're discharged Saturday. But we have a conversation with a social worker, and she was the our favorite person we talked to
that's
out
awesome.
of
Oh, so
okay.
I said follow up to that, like, did the nursing staff send the social worker in?
I think so. Maybe they have a requirement to
Interesting.
to do that. Raises her voice, cries.
Wow, is a human. Sorry, I'm trying
Exactly.
to hold back my bias, but
I know.
god, that's challenging.
Yes. Um, but okay, so I think fast forward to discharge on Saturday. Netta actually spent the night at our house that night. And so she actually helped with so much. She helped with latch. She did oral assessments on Ruby. She helped us with some like mobility exercises, with like her body, like and like reducing tension, the guppy pose and stuff like that, and moving the head, and then getting her tongue to come out as far out as possible, and like move to the side here and there. And she helped us establish triple feeding. So at that point, Ruby was born Tuesday. Saturday, I was pumping enough like into those little tubes that the hospital gives you. So I had like some milliliters, not ounces. And so I would pump or I'd feed her first. She would fall asleep at the breast, working so hard, couldn't get much. And then I would pump, and then Zach, my husband, would feed her with a syringe, like we would do side, kind of like paste feeding with a syringe. So she'd be laying on her side on a pillow to mimic breastfeeding. And then Zach would do the syringe and like kind of try to get her sucking a little bit. He'd have his finger. We like got a bunch of those gloves, nitrile gloves, and he'd have his finger in her mouth to like activate the suck reflex, and we would put a little bit of the breast milk in with the syringe. And so, yeah, we did that every 2 freaking hours for like a week. That was a lot. I think there were some times when we tried to just like not do much of a syringe. We just like try breast. But most every food was
Right.
breast, then syringe. Yeah.
And it's for the first 2 weeks, and then what happened after those?
So I think it was like roughly a week. And then my milk, like I had more milk, and pumping probably helped more milk come in. So at the very least, like she didn't have to work as hard as she was in the beginning, and more milk would come out. She was getting a little stronger. But we ended up doing craniosacral therapy starting around a month, I believe, month and change. um, and she was an SLP who did cranio. And so that was awesome because she could kind of like do oral assessments as well. And with each visit, Ruby just like, it seemed like she elongated a little bit. She just became less tense. And so that was certainly helping, but not quite enough. And then I got to a point where I thought that I had thrush at one point. There was like some nipple pain, and I was like, we can't have this. Well, we ended up seeing a pediatric dentist, and Ruby had a tongue tie and an upper lip tie. And they did offer to release it in the office there, which I didn't think, I didn't, the recommendation came like highly recommended. And I was a little bit surprised that they offered that because yes, we had done cranial, but hadn't practiced the stretches leading up to the release. So we opted to come back a week later after practicing the stretches, and we got Ruby's tongue and lip released. I mean, I hated it. I couldn't go in there with her. It was just so sad for me, first time mom, and she's like, crying. It's like very hard.
Yeah. So how was that after the release? Like in terms of was she in a lot of pain? Like what was that like?
Initially, it's like they're so sleepy, and I think I don't know if they use lidocaine or something on it beforehand, but the first couple feedings after that were like manageable. But then you have to start the stretches every like 4 hours. And that was really tough. She hated that. I mean, you do them fairly quickly. So it just felt like we were torturing her for every 4 hours for 4 weeks, I believe. Ultimately, I will say like it was worth it. We will do it again if this baby needs it, because she was able to eat so much better. Noticed she started sleeping with her and like holding her mouth closed. And I would check to see if her tongue was suctioned to the roof of her mouth, and it was more and more. And yeah, I think that's what helped her be able to do a lot of things, like not just breastfeeding, but like she was an early sound maker. Eating is going really well. She sleeps with her mouth closed to this day. It's great.
So yeah, I'd love to talk about like what weaning was like, because you said she weaned herself, and then anything you want to share about, yeah, what she's eating today. And because it's funny, like I do think that the breastfeeding and the language is connected, because we talk about how feeding is communication
Mm,
and responding to your baby
yeah.
by, you know, responsive feeding. It's
Mhm.
like, well, they're more likely to communicate because they know that those communication attempts are going to be met. So,
Yeah. I also There's so many interesting things about speaking and making sounds and stuff, and I felt like even with every new tooth she got in, she like unlocked a new sound that she could make. It's
so
so
cool.
cool to see.
It's like a guitar or something, and they have a little extra piece, that reverberate sound differently. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's like a new mechanism of an instrument, essentially. So we started solids at 6 months, and leading up to that, we would practice with stick-shaped teethers, and just like sitting in the chair. Um, we prioritized breastfeeding, of course, until a year. And then I think I kept most of the feed. Maybe I was like at 5 or 6 times a day. She was still feeding overnight. She didn't start sleeping through the night till maybe like 14 months. And then if that's not linear, like she would sleep through the night for a few months and then some big life change would happen. Like changing nannies, starting school. So then she'd be up a bit or like getting sick. Um, and then, it's not linear. But I dropped feeds as they became like honestly annoying for me. And I think I either dropped bedtime or nap time first. And a lot of people recommend not dropping that one first, but it's like whatever works for your kid. For me, it was like she goes to sleep so much faster with my husband and a bottle of milk. Like it's either my personality or like our relationship or breastfeeding, not sure, but it would like keep her stimulated and she'd have trouble falling asleep. So, I dropped one of those first. I dropped maybe um, like what would be a snack time feed. I like kind of just replaced that with offering a snack. She was, I think our last two feeds that we kept, the last feed we kept was when she first woke up in the morning. I loved that she's so cuddly and happy when she wakes up. And so I think around when she was a year and a half ish, or shortly thereafter, um, maybe like 20 months, we were only feeding in the morning when she woke up. And so I was like, this could end any day now. Like, I don't know how long my body will make milk one time a day. And it did, and it kept going. And then I got pregnant and it's still like, I was still producing milk and it was still like really nice. Like I'd bring her into our bed in the morning and just breastfeed her, but I would kind of like lean back and have her, she'd be on top of me. And then as my belly grew, I was like, all right, this is uncomfortable. So we would do like side lying. And then she got like so distracted. And so at a certain point, I was like, do you want a bottle of milk or mommy's milk? And she would like say which one she wanted. Some days it was a bottle. And then I still like offered the next day just to see if anything was there. And she's like, mommy's milk. Okay. And then like, I actually have a video of what ended up being the last time we were breastfeeding. My husband took the video and she just like unlatches herself and she's like, that's your nose? That's your glasses? He's like, that's your mustache? Yeah, it's so funny and cute. Um,
They
yeah,
say during just
I know. It's so funny. And then the next day she wanted her bottle of like cow's milk. And by bottle, like we switched to a straw
okay.
shortly after a year. Yeah. I should also mention she never took a pacifier because she couldn't. And then by the time her tongue tie was like released and the like exercises were completely done, they were like, don't offer a pacifier really with the recovery period because your tongue can't go up.
Yeah.
So we didn't. And then by that point, like her suck reflex was gone. And she just spit out a pacifier. So she never,
That's
um,
like kind of a plus. It's
yeah.
funny. I was with my family a couple of weeks ago, and they all think, you're pro once you start talking about these things and like, well, what's the deal on the pacifier? And I'm like, well, I'm not gonna tell you. But if you cannot use it, then yeah, don't use it.
Yeah.
I think it's like
Pros and cons. It's like a good sign that your baby can suck.
yeah.
Um, and like don't want to miss like the feeding cues, and you don't want their tongue to be like dropping low and the pacifier to mold their mouth instead. And
Exactly.
then like
Like
a dependency and
their teeth, yeah, it changes the shape of their mouth for sure.
mhm.
Wow. Well, okay, that's an awesome story. I mean, in terms of like really honest and raw, and I feel like you did a great job at really the through line like of prenatal birth, feeding, weaning. Is there anything else you want to share about this pregnancy or whatnot before I ask you our final question?
Sure. Well, I think like I talked a lot about how like the things that made it difficult. Um, but it also got to a point where it was the easiest thing to do. And like pumping bottle feeding was so cumbersome. And like Ruby just ate really well. And I was able to like passively collect milk, also pump. And my body just like made enough for her for as long as she needed it and wanted it. And it like turned out so positive that I just like couldn't be prouder of us. Um, and it wasn't, I don't look back on that and think like, oh my God, like that was so much work. I think like that was awesome
Oh,
because there are so many more good days than the first like 3 to 4 months of it being difficult.
wow.
Yeah. Um,
You. I feel like that's what moms really to hear.
yeah, it gets to a point where it is the easier thing to do. You still have to feed your baby breast milk or formula for a year, and like it's what was easiest for us in the long run, and not just like easy isn't what makes it awesome, but that's like a nice perk.
Yeah.
And then with this pregnancy, I mentioned a different prenatal. I'm taking different supplements and just like taking care of myself in a way where I'm hoping that if there's like, I don't have control over every aspect, like being GPS positive or postpartum preeclampsia, but I'm taking whatever steps I can nutritionally and supplementally and health wise to like avoid that. I'm also delivering with at a birth center with midwives. I mean, an epidural is just like not even on the table unless I needed a transfer to the hospital. So I'm I feel equipped to handle and like to understand more of what's going on should anything out of the plan
Yep.
arise.
Yeah, absolutely. Like from everything you went through with Ruby and feeding, I just feel like you can look back and think that like I did that,
Mhm,
I mean, we did that as
mhm.
a dyad and as a family. And so it's like, let's do this thing. Yeah.
Yeah, we're like
Cool.
ready to do it again.
Yeah.
Mm.
So we always ask to end an episode what you would tell a new mom who's experiencing feeding issues.
Oh man, I think like it's really easy to have bad experiences with IBCLCs or like lactation consultants. Don't be discouraged and don't just let anyone make you feel bad. I saw someone um outside of Meta like once we got home, and like a lot of the things she was saying were like there were like two helpful things, and then a lot of it was like, "Oh, we sell these like heat massagers. We sell these like breastfeeding pillows."
Good.
And, like, "Oh, she probably doesn't have a tongue tie." Like, she didn't even do an oral assessment. So,
Yeah.
like, if you are not having luck with an IBCLC, like, even reach out to someone for a virtual consult, like, who you find on Instagram who's helpful. Like, if you hear this podcast, like, you guys sound I mean, I'm confident that you know what you're talking about.
Thank you.
Um yeah, and can find like so many good resources for you guys. So like don't let anyone make you feel bad.
So true. So true. Like I think we've said this before in other episodes, but like if you meet a provider and they just aren't for you, then like they aren't for you. Cut
Mhm.
ties and move on. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you are never stuck. You always have a choice. And that's the beautiful thing about things like Instagram and just the internet is
Yeah.
you have options.
And I thought that I felt the need to explain our whole like set of goals and backstory to like Ruby's pediatrician, to the first lactation consultant we saw, to like whatever specialist, blah blah blah. And I got to a point where I was like, and like the amount of people we saw in the hospital, like I felt the need to like explain everything to everyone. And I remember telling my husband at a certain point early on where I was like, I'm just like not even talking to the pediatrician about this at the next appointment. If I mean, I'll let them know she got the release. I'm not asking for their blessing. I'm not asking for like their opinion when, the one pediatrician was like, maybe it's a mild tie. Like, all right, whatever. I'm like having nipple pain. So
Yeah.
I'm not listening to you. I'm not seeking counsel from you. You're not helping. And I don't need to explain myself and get approval from you.
Yeah. There's this awesome quote that's like, if you want to make the wrong decision, ask everyone.
Yes.
And it's like, especially in motherhood, I would think that like sometimes, most of the time, trusting your intuition is the best thing you can do. And
Mhm.
then just being like keeping that in your heart.
And it took a while to find that intuition. I like heard that over and over and over, but like the anxiety of wanting your kid to like, oh my God, is she not eating well? Like I need to like make sure every single health metric is ticked off and um that can override your intuition sometimes. And so it took me a little bit to find my intuition and trust it. And
Yeah.
it doesn't always click right away.
And for people like women who aren't moms yet who are listening to these podcasts, I feel like that's something, at least for me, that like you can develop before you have a child of like, do I need all of these external things to tell me that I'm okay? Because that does there's the same patterns that I'm going to use as a mother to like, is my baby okay? Is my baby okay? Is the
Mhm.
same thing I could like notice now. Am I asking my supervisor, my like teachers, am I okay? Like, and it's like, well, I know I'm okay. I don't need them to tell me
Mhm.
that I'm okay. Yeah. So, and if I'm not, I trust that I can make decisions.
Yes, you
So
can handle it.
yeah. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Rachel. I've
Yeah.
just really enjoyed this conversation and
Oh, good.
I can't wait to we'll have to have you back on in like a year when with the new baby.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope to have like a very different start to the next story.
Either way, your resilience is
Handle
really
it. Yes.
exactly. That's the beauty. That is the beauty. Well, thank you so much. And
Mhm.
yeah, we loved having you on.
Yes, love the pod.
Awesome. Alrighty. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
We're so happy you joined us for this episode of the Feeding Hour. If you are enjoying the podcast, please leave us a review or send it to a friend. It helps these feeding stories go out to the public and to new moms that might feel alone. If you have any feedback for us on how we can improve or would like to share your story, please email us at thefeedinghourpodcast@gmail.com. Also, if this podcast has helped you and you're in a position to give back, you can now support us on Patreon to help keep the Feeding Hour alive. Just $5 a month would really help us to keep it going. The link is in the show notes and we would so appreciate it. Until next time, happy feeding.